River Phoenix, a death no one answered for. By Zilver. On the night of October 30, 1993, River Phoenix, actor, activist, musician, and one of the most promising talents of his generation, collapsed and died outside the Viper Room nightclub in Los Angeles. His death was swift, public, and devastating. The coroner's report would later confirm that he died of acute multiple drug intoxication. Heroin, cocaine, Valium, and other substances were found in his system. But what has quietly haunted the story ever since isn't just the tragic nature of his death, it's the absence of consequences. No investigation ever led to criminal charges. No one was held accountable. And if anyone knows even the basics of how overdose deaths are handled, especially in high-profile cases, they know that River Phoenix's case is, plainly, an anomaly. I've spent the past several years researching River's life and death. I've contacted the Los Angeles Coroner's Office, reviewed multiple case files, and traced parallels with other public overdose cases that did lead to criminal charges. I've gone beyond the glossy magazine profiles and the sanitized documentaries to ask the question no one seems willing to confront. Why was River Phoenix's death treated like an accident, when all evidence suggests a crime took place? Let's be clear, overdoses don't just happen. In most jurisdictions, an overdose, particularly one involving hard drugs like heroin or cocaine, is considered not just a medical event, but potentially a criminal one. If a person supplies or administers drugs to someone who dies as a result, legal systems often respond with manslaughter or drug distribution charges. This isn't speculative. We have numerous examples. In 2022, Stephen Walter was sentenced to over 17 years in prison for supplying the fentanyl-laced pills that killed Mac Miller. Dr. Conrad Murray served jail time after being found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in the death of Michael Jackson. After Prince died in 2016, the investigation traced the supply chain of counterfeit pills, and although no one was ultimately charged, multiple legal pathways were explored in earnest. Each of these cases followed a pattern. The person who overdosed was not the only one under scrutiny. The system asked, who gave them the drugs? Were they administered knowingly? Was the dosage lethal and did someone else know it could be? So why didn't those questions get asked in River's case? The culture of silence at the Viper Room. On the night of River's death, a number of people were present. Among them were Joaquin and Rain Phoenix, River's younger siblings, as well as then-girlfriend Samantha Mathis. Also reportedly present, and often omitted in mainstream retellings, was John Frusciante, the Red Hot Chili Peppers guitarist known at the time for his severe heroin addiction and erratic behavior. Frusciante's name appears repeatedly in alternative reports. But what the media got wrong, and what has since been proven false, is the widely spread narrative that River had been on a drug binge in the days leading up to his death. The autopsy clearly stated there were no signs of recent or long-term drug abuse, no track marks, no tissue damage, no internal indications of ongoing use. That information didn't stop the press from painting River as a reckless addict. It was a deliberate smear, an attempt to rewrite his legacy in the aftermath. What's even more frustrating is that despite the clear evidence of external involvement, someone had to have supplied or administered the drugs that killed him. The case didn't move forward. And the reason isn't a mystery. The witnesses refused to testify, and the Phoenix family reportedly pressured those around them to stay quiet. What might have led to a prosecution was shut down before it could even begin. The disturbing comments of John Frusciante. In various interviews, Frusciante has made remarks that appear shockingly cold, even cruel. In one particularly alarming quote from Flaunt magazine, he said, "River didn't want to be here anymore. It's a shame he was even born." There are other instances, too, statements that echo this detached, dismissive tone. Let's be honest, this is not how you speak about someone you consider a close friend, especially someone who died under the influence of drugs in your presence or near it. Frusciante's remarks may reflect trauma or guilt, but they also raise a far more troubling possibility. Was there an implicit understanding that River's death was acceptable? That no one would ask too many questions? At minimum, these comments should have prompted a deeper investigation, or at least public scrutiny. Instead, the media has largely allowed this narrative to slide under the radar. Negligent homicide is still homicide. If we remove the celebrity factor for a moment and examine the situation as any other overdose, a 23-year-old dies of a lethal combination of narcotics in a public space. Other people are present. Someone obtained the drugs. Someone administered them, or, at the very least, enabled their use. In most such cases, law enforcement would open a case of negligent homicide or drug-induced homicide. The fact that this didn't happen in River's case isn't just unusual, it's inexcusable. And this isn't just about pointing fingers at Frusciante or anyone else personally. It's about accountability in a system that picks and chooses whose death matters, and whose doesn't. Why the silence? There are many possible reasons why this case was effectively buried. River was beloved and idealized. Perhaps people didn't want to tarnish that image with a messy legal aftermath. The people present had powerful industry ties. Maybe the LAPD didn't want a headline-grabbing scandal involving celebrities and narcotics. Or maybe it was just another instance where the overdose of a troubled artist is swept under the romanticized myth of genius and self-destruction. But most crucially, the people who were there refused to speak, and the family discouraged further inquiry. In a world where justice often depends on the willingness of witnesses, this silence was enough to kill any hope for accountability. But that's not justice. That's negligence. River deserved accountability, not just mourning. We can't retroactively save River Phoenix, but we can confront the truth of what happened. His death was not some poetic tragedy. It was a crime, because someone supplied the drugs, someone administered them, and no one stopped him when he was visibly dying. And unlike nearly every other high-profile overdose case that followed, no one paid a price. Not socially. Not legally. Not even ethically. This is the final wound in River Phoenix's story, not just that he died young, but that he died without justice. That his name became shorthand for fallen star, instead of a rallying cry for the kind of accountability that every other overdose victim, and their family, has the right to demand. Epilogue, for those who still remember. If you are someone who mourns River Phoenix, you owe it to him to tell the whole truth. If you were there, you should speak. If you were complicit, you should come forward. And if you, like many of us, grew up admiring him, not just as an actor but as a soul who stood for compassion, veganism, environmental justice, then remember that silence is not compassion. Justice is.